that suit the very next day. It was pretty stunning. Then came an avalanche of other lawsuits, and one thing that has often been mentioned are Combs's sex parties. They're called freak-offs. The U.S. attorney discussed the freak-offs in a press conference.
As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair.
The feds lay out in more detail how these freak-offs were organized in the indictment. Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs's role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs's orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. The U.S. attorney referenced one incident of someone being abused during a freak-off that sounded eerily familiar. Remember Combs's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who I mentioned earlier, and that explosive video obtained by CNN that showed Combs chasing her down a hallway and stomping on her? Well, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams referenced an incident that sounded a lot like that incident at the hotel in Los Angeles in 2016 that involved Ventura.
On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse.
Now remember, Sean Combs may be the person facing the charges, but the feds are accusing him of using his business empire to run a criminal enterprise, and they say he wasn't doing this alone.
And Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way.
The U.S. attorney says those employees included high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees. They facilitated the freak-offs, according to the indictment, by, among other things, booking hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting, cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for victims, commercial sex workers, and Combs to and from freak-offs, resupplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay the commercial sex workers.